Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 25th lecture of Grid and Cloud Computing. In this lecture, we'll start your Unit 5 or Module 5. In Module 5, we are going to discuss the various aspects of grid computing. Okay, you know that cloud computing and grid computings are very close to each other. So you can say the backbone of cloud computing is grid computing. So we'll see the many important aspects that are used in grid in this particular unit. So here you can see the agenda for next 6 classes. First, we'll discuss about the grid computing systems and resource management. This is the unit name, in which we are going to discuss about the grid architecture and what are the services provided by grid and what are the resources associated with the grid, how resources are discovered, how resources are allocated. Okay, so this part we are going to see in the first unit. We are also going to discuss about the web services, which we discussed in the service oriented architecture unit. Then I will tell you about some of the real life grid projects. Like there are some project name is called as TerraGrid. Also, this thing we have already discussed about TerraGrid, and we are going to also discuss about EGEE, right? And we are also going to discuss one of the popular platform, that is BOINC platform. So tomorrow's class, I will tell you how BNC platform working and how BNC platform is executing various projects, how you can install BOINC in your computer system and contribute your computational resources to the grid. And also we are going to discuss country specific grid like China grid, right? And we are also going to discuss one of the grid, that is grid 5000, right, which is having 9 different sites, and they are coordinating each other to provide the services. So these grid projects and how to build a grid system, that we'll discuss in the second lecture. In the third lecture, we are going to see the grid resource management. So there is a broker which receives all the requests and assigns the request to the grid resources based upon the requirement of the user, that we are going to discuss. Next, we are going to discuss some of the middleware. You know that middleware is providing a feature that it hides internal details of the system, okay, and the software that are required for grid computing. Finally, we will discuss about the some of the applications. Especially these applications are referred to as your scientific and engineering applications, where you require massive amount of computational power or massive amount of data to store. Such applications we are going to discuss, and we are ending with some security measures. So in this lecture, I will highlight about the grid architecture and service modeling, right? Now you know that whether it is a grid or a cloud, we require a very huge amount of computer system, right? Which we call as a data center. If you go to a data center and see, there are numerous servers are there, okay, or millions of servers are there, okay. In that server, you are hosting your virtual machine. Similarly, if you go for grid also, grid comprises of so many systems, right? The number of systems is very high, okay. So these systems are contributing the power to build the grid. That's why grid is a meta computing infrastructure. You are aware of metadata, right? Metadata is data about data. But here we are talking about meta computing, that is computing about computing, right? How grid is providing such infrastructure? Because it brings together computers, various computers. So computer does not mean that you have your laptop, that is not the computer, or desktop, that is not the computer. Computer may be anything that is able to process a particular thing, right? Your mobile phone is also can be contribute to something. Then mobile phone can also be a part of our grid. That's why here you can see the computer refers to your personal computers, desktops, okay, workstations. It may be a server cluster. Server cluster means group of servers, okay, or it may be a powerful computer like supercomputer or laptop or your notebook or your mobile computer or personal digital assistant. So computer does not mean that every computer should have a hard disk. Sorry, every computer having is a keyboard, mouse like that. Okay. So it may be anything which is able to process a particular thing that we call as a computer and which builds a big infrastructure for grid. So why they are combined? Why we want to bring these things into a single unit? Because we want to form a large collection of compute, storage, and network resources. Right? Why we need this large collection of compute, storage, and network resources? Because we want to execute a very big application for which you need to combine various computer systems so that the work of that particular application can be executed successfully. So specifically, if you see here, we are going to solve a large computational problem. The computational problem is very huge. Then only we are going for a grid and cloud. So if you have written a very simple program, what we are seeing in generally in our UG courses, these programs is a very simple program, right? This program is not that much big to execute in the grid and cloud, but many problems are there which
अरे ये बात इन अंडरलाइन बा
just a minute. Okay. So to solve a large scale computational problem, just like weather forecasting, finding the drug for corona, and these various diseases like HIV and let's say dengue and many diseases for which we require more computational power for problem, more computational power to solve these problems, right? In that case, you require massive amount of computational power for which grid is a appropriate option. Grid is not only providing you the large computational problem solution for the large computational problem, but also it enables you to fast information retrieval by registered users or groups. Those who want to contribute the resources or those who want to assess the things from the grid, if they are registered with a grid system, it is also providing a fast information retrieval system. So these are the basic definition kind of thing for a grid. So if you want to go for grid, you can get a computer clusters, you can get massively parallel processor system that is called as a MPP system, which we already discussed. So in grid, you can see the resource, who is owning these resources. These resources means these computers, that is PC, workstation, server cluster, supercomputer, laptop. Who is the owner of these things? If anybody will ask, then you can say these resources are owned by different organizations, or it may be different enterprises, or it may be different governments, or it may be an individual as well, like us. We can also contribute our computer resources to the grid. So in tomorrow's lab class, I will tell you how you can participate in a particular grid project. Okay. So once you contribute this thing as an organization, as an enterprise, as a government, or as an individual, they are aggregated together. Your resources will be aggregated together, and all the aggregated resources will execute a particular application which is having a common objective. For example, you know that government of India also launched many missions, Swachh Bharat mission, okay, Digital India mission. So these missions can be, these missions are having a common objective. So if you want to do, if the state governments are if you want to launch these missions, okay, of the central government, so they can coordinate with the central government in the form of a grid where they can launch such type of solutions. Okay, by combining the efforts of all the state governments, they can contribute the missions and they can fulfill the demands of the central government, right? So such type of aggregations, many projects are there where there is a common objective, and many people are participating into that project in order to provide some solutions. So in that case, you can go for grid computing. Similarly, you can see here in grid, the virtual organizations, the entire thing. Once you contribute your resources into a particular project, like I told you about in India case, it is Swachh Bharat mission, or you can say Digital India mission, or if you go for some grid projects like weather forecasting or finding the drug for a particular disease like Corona. So for this, if you want to contribute your resources so that some analysis can be done by some research institutes or some industries. So if you go to a particular project, millions or billion number of users are using that particular project. As million and billions users are using that projects or participating in these projects, the entire things will be treated as a single system. That's why we call it a single system image. So you cannot deal with multiple systems. So you can deal with a single system which is going to coordinate all other systems. That is called as our single system image, right? But everything, if you see in an overall picture, it is a virtual organization, not a physical organization. So this virtual organization and virtual supercomputers are the concepts derived in the case of grid and cloud in order to abstract many things, in order to hide many internal details. So these are the virtual resources like work PCs, workstations, server clusters. They are dynamically configured. There is no static feature here. They are dynamically configured, and they are also not under a single organization. They are not under a single local administration. They are under various organizations, so that at any point of time, if somebody is leaving to the system, so it will not drastically impact you in the grid system. Now you can see okay. Now this is the history. Let us see the grid history and service families. So you know that all the things, whether it is a cluster or grid or cloud, it all are network-based distributed computing. A network-based distributed computing is more and more popular as we are proceeding towards various computing. Network-based distributed computing, by the help of the internet, it becomes very popular both in the business community as well as in the academic. So internet was developed in the year of 1980 to provide computer communication using the telnet protocol, right? The basic purpose of internet is how one computer can communicate with another computer. One of the example you can say, I am sending an email to you. I am using my computer system to send a mail to you. You are using your computer system to view that mail. That is possible by the help of internet. So earlier we are using the telnet protocol to make it possible. As the invention proceeds, the web service was developed in 1990, especially in the service-oriented architecture. We are dealing everything with the web services. So these web services was developed in the year of 1990s to establish direct linkage between the web pages using our HTTP protocol. Now we are using HTTPS secure protocol, right? After that, the web, you can say in 1990, the grid was developed and grid becomes gradually available to establish a large pool of shared resources. Large pool of shared resources means it may be PCs, it may be workstations, it may be PDS, it may be server clusters. All are combined into a pool of resources, and whenever they required, then you can take a resources from that pool. Like you know that in many NGOs, or if you go for in our real life case, many people when they are not using the clothes, they are putting the clothes into a single place, right? And the people who need that clothes, they can take from that place, right? So such type of giving and taking policies makes a pool of resources so that if a person need a particular thing, he can take. If the person who don't require a particular things, they can contribute. Like I am not using my computer system, so I can give my computer resources to the grid project, and whenever required, I can ask also the grid project. If it is I am running a scientific and engineering application, then I can also request the grid to provide the resources to me in order to execute my work. So basically, this idea of grid was coined by Ian Foster, Carl Kesselman, and Steve Tukey, and in the year of 2001. So they are called as the father of grid. Especially Professor Ian Foster is called as the father of the grid computing. So with their groundwork, they are often called as the father of grid computing. So like you know that Dennis Ritchie was is called as the father of our C. Okay. Similarly, Professor Rajkumar Guya is a very good researcher or pioneering work. He has done so much work in the case of cloud computing. Similarly, Ian Foster is referred as a very good researcher in the field of our grid computing. So here you can see the Globus project is supported by DARPA. In internet, we have a DARPA agency, has promoted the maturity of grid technology with a rich collection of software and middleware tools for grid computing. So Globus project was first developed to promote the grid computing. Finally, in the year of 2007, the concept of cloud computing was coined, which is extending the grid computing to the virtualized data center. Earlier, everything, whatever things are there in grid computing, the same thing is there in the cloud computing, but everything will be solved in a virtual manner. That's why virtualized data centers are coming to picture by the help of cloud computing, and a business model is designed so that many organizations can use the cloud without owning any physical infrastructure. So if you compare grid with, you can compare grid with a HPC cluster, that is your high performance computing cluster. If you compare, you can find grid is a complete heterogeneous computers, comprises of heterogeneous computers. Suppose you are sharing your resources, I am also sharing my resources. So your resources and my resources may be different, right? Your computer configuration, my computer configuration is different. So you can participate into grid project. I can also participate into grid project. So that is makes grid as a comprises of heterogeneous computers. But whenever you go for HPC, these computers are having same configuration, so they are dealing with homogeneous machines. So there are four major families of grid computing system is suggested by the Forbes GGG categorization, that is called as our Great Global Grid categorization. Based upon that, they've specified there are four categories. First one is called as a computational grid or data grid, in which these projects are there, like TeraGrid is used in United States, EG is used in the Europe, Data Grid is also used in Europe, Grid 5000 is used in the France, China Grid is used in the China, right? NAS is used in the NASA. So these are the real life projects under the computational grid and data grid. The second type of grid is called as your information grid or knowledge grid, in which BOINC is coming. I will give a demo on the BOINC, which is provided by University of California, Berkeley. Third type of grid is your business grid, in which you have Microsoft.NET, SunGrid Engine, IBM WebSphere. Okay. Similarly, the fourth categorization, in which you have P2P grid or voluntary grid, right? So these are the families is defined by these GGG. They have categorized into four different categories. Let us talk about the next topic, that is our grid service protocol stack. You are aware of the OSI ISO reference model of the computer network. You know, in OSI ISO reference model, you have 7 layers, right? And TCP/IP layer, if you see, it is reduced to 4 or 5 layers. So I am comparing the grid protocol stack with the internet protocol, in which you have physical layer, network layer, transport layer, and application layer. So you can also say physical data link network and application transport and application layer as well. So if you compare the grid service protocol stack with internet protocol, so obviously the top layer correspond to your user application, okay, to run the grid system, and user application always demand the collective services, okay, including the collective computing and communications. So I need to execute a particular project for which I required 2000 machines, 2000 computer systems. So for my application, I will request to this collective services in order to provide such computation. After the request is reached to the collective service, the next layer is formed, that is called as your resource service. Resource layer is formed by the hardware and software resources aggregated to run the user application under the collective fashions. So all the hardwares and softwares are combined together in order to provide services to a particular application or a group of applications. Coming forward, you are getting the next layer as your connectivity service layer. So this layer provides the interconnection among the drafted resources. So connectivity is layer services is going to provide the interconnection among the drafted resources. The resources may be your hardware resources, it may be software resources, and everything is managed in the form of the middleware, so that user will not get the hassle-free services without going to the internal details. And obviously, the bottom layer is the fabric layer, which includes all the computational resources. It may be your storage, it may be your computation, it may be your network. It is also consisting of your catalogs, network resources. It may having the sensors if you are going for a IoT applications also, or you can go for their network connections. So that is the bottommost layer, grid fabric layer, which is you can map with the physical layers of the internet protocol. And connectivity services you can map with the our network layer, where you are using internet protocol in the OSI ISO reference model. Similarly, you can see application layer is also there in the grid service protocol stack as well as in your internet protocol. So in this way, you can compare the grid service layer with the OSI ISO reference model. So you know that many existing protocol like internet protocol, or you can go for transmission control protocol TCP, or hypertext transfer protocol HTTP, file transfer protocol, domain name services, or some new communication protocol that is used today like HTTPS. So these protocols can be used to route and transport data. We are not going for a complete new system. We are using the same protocol in order to communicate between various computer systems that are present in the grid system. And the resource layer, whatever we discussed, is responsible for sharing a single resource. And an interface is needed to claim the static structure or dynamic status of the local resource. The structure of the resources may be static or may be dynamic, right? So both type of resources need to be supported. So in this table also you can see various resources. Suppose I require more computation power, okay, more processing things, then I can go for compute resources, right? And if I need to store something like Amazon S3, we have already discussed, so you can go for storage resources. Okay. Suppose you require, you want to control various resources in the form of a network, you can go for network resources. Suppose you want to go for a GitHub kind of thing where you are posting your codes or you are using the codes of other. In that case, you require code repository. That also can be possible by the help of grid computing. Similarly, service catalog, okay, the main operations is implementing your catalog query, update the operations, that is nothing but your relational database. In that case also, you can use the grid computing, right? So in grid, whenever a resource is requested, right? For example, as a user, I am requesting a particular application, or I require for running a particular application, I require a set of computer system. So what I will do, I will request to the grid, then grid will accept my resource request, and in which I can go for a negotiate the quality of services. Negotiate quality of services means if you require the reliability, availability, or some specific parameters. So in that case, we can represent in the form. In these cases, you can represent as a quality of services. So at any case, the quality of the services should not be degraded. But before using the services, you have to sign the some agreement, okay, that is virtual agreement, in which you can negotiate the quality of services and perform the operation whatever required for a particular user application. Similarly, if you go for the collective layer, you can see collective layer handles the interaction among a collection of resources. So the resources, whatever we have, if you want to interact with them, there you can go for collective layer. This layer also implements various functions that is nothing but how to locate a particular resource in the grid system, that is called as a resource discovery, right? Suppose I need multiple resources, how I can do the co-allocation. As many users are accessing to the grid scheduling grid, then you have to perform everything by the help of scheduling, right? You have a resources, but the number of users are more. Okay, so in order to coordinate among various resources, in order to use the grid resources, you need a scheduling algorithm to dispatch the user request to the appropriate resources. You need the brokering system. Instead of user, a broker may use a particular system. You can go for monitoring the system, or you can go for the diagnostics of the system. So these functions you can implement in the collective layer of the grid protocol stack. Other features also, grid also provides you replication. The same data is replicated into various places. It is also possible to do grid enabled programming, workload management, collaboration, software discovery, security features like authorization and authentication, and accounting, payment, auditing. These features are provided by the collective layer in the protocol stack, right? Okay, before we discuss this one, let us take a poll. Please arrange these evaluation in the order of their invention. Means the first one, which is invented first, that should appear first. Cloud, grid, web service, internet, which came first? Cloud, grid, web service, internet, in which one was invented first? That you have to first arrange in the first. Okay, last 10 seconds left. What is the correct answer? The correct answer is internet first, that is 1980. Web service is 1990. And grid is also in 1990, and cloud in the year of 2007, right? So this is the order of internet, web services, and grid and cloud, right? Which is I mentioned in the very first slide. You can see here, right? Okay, so we can characterize the process of grid resource aggregation from local to remote resources. Your resources may be present anywhere in the world, right? So I can locate that resources, or I can use the resources of that computer systems by the help of our internet system, right? By the help of internet, we are able to do it. So traditionally, if you go to grid, the resources are allocated statically, right? And if you see, cloud is resources are allocated dynamically, right? Now everything is dynamically only, but early days you can see that grid resources are provided in a static manner, right? But nowadays, if you see, that difference between the grid and cloud is not clearly visible. That's why it is called as blurred, right? So grid resources come from two possible sources. You can use the resources owned by various government agencies or research institutions. They are resources you can use to run a particular scientific application, which we called as a large scale HPC grid. On the other hand, you can take a large number of small commodity computers owned by ordinary citizens, or you can say volunteers, or a people like you and me. So in which you can share the resources to form a virtual grid. In these two ways, you can form a grid and provide the resources, or you can run a particular scientific or engineering applications using grid. So grid is also having significant difference with your supercomputer, because grid is loosely coupled, but supercomputer is tightly coupled. Grid is completely heterogeneous, and your conventional supercomputer is homogeneous, right? And supercomputer is placed in a single place, but grid resources are present anywhere in the world. In that manner, you can say the grid and conventional supercomputers are different from each other. So the concept of creating the grid from the unused resources. So whenever you are not using your computer resources, grid is using that resources, right? Or in the night time, especially whenever your computer system is not required, at that time the resources you can share. So that resources can be used in a particular grid project, right? That is called as your CPU scavenging, right? So you have to contribute your unused resources for a particular project. One of such project is your search for extraterrestrial intelligence at home, in which you can see 3 million computer systems are active at a particular time, which contribute 23.37 teraflops of power. And these teraflops are changing with respect to the time, right? Every time and the number of teraflops or number of computers participated in this particular project is increasing. Similarly, we are going to discuss the BOINC platform in the tomorrow's lab class. That is your Berkeley Open Infrastructure for Network Computing. In BOINC platform, we have a lot of projects, and you can participate in that project by contributing your resources. So this BOINC platform was started, was invented, you can say is developed by University of California, Berkeley, and BOINC exceeds the fastest supercomputer in terms of number of running machines in 2011. The number of computers or number of cores that are participating in the BOINC project, if you compare with the fastest supercomputer, you are going to see that BOINC is providing more number of more computational power in comparison to a supercomputer. And the number of users active, number of users contributing in BOINC is always greater than the fastest supercomputer. Similarly, another project is also there, that is Folding at Home, is also a great project in which millions of computer systems are participating. Next, let us see the grid resource aggregation. In grid resource aggregation, the very first part, the compute nodes and other resources of our grid do not join or leave the system incidentally. Many systems are dedicatedly participated in the grid, but sometimes the systems are leaving, sometimes the system is joining. So as these resources are joining and leaving, you can say more or less your load is shared among the equal number of resources, right? But sometimes whenever there is a serious fault, definitely the number of users is drastically reducing, where your computation may be affected. But if you compare with the cloud resources are mostly provisioned from the large data centers, which is placed in a particular place. So in that case, this such type of fluctuation can be avoided. So if you want to build a particular P2P grid, right? So if you are planning to do P2P grid, that is because of the distributed file sharing, content delivery, gaming, or entertainment application, you can take the resources from various sources and you can build a P2P grid where one peer is not dependent on other peer, right? And a peer can leave or join at any particular point of time. The availability and specification of the resources is provided by your grid information services. There is a component called GIS, GIS is responsible to find the availability of the resources and specification of the resources in terms of how much instruction it can execute, how many cores that system is having. That is the responsibility of GIS system. Similarly, there is a grid resource broker is there which assists your users with fees to allocate the appropriate resources for a user application. So similarly, you may have a multiple broker or you may have multiple GISs. So multiple broker could compute to serve users and multiple GISs may overlap in their resource coverage. So that means the number of users can be easily accommodated by the help of these components. So coming to the virtual organization, you know that virtual organizations offer dynamic cooperation built over multiple physical organizations. If you have a set of physical organizations, they want to create a virtual organization that can be also possible. So grid is a distributed system integrated from shared resources to form a virtual organization. For example, 5-6 NITs now they want to, let's say, contribute for a particular project. So they are the physical organizations. They will build a set of virtual organizations. These virtual organizations are using the resources of the physical organizations in order to execute their work. Like here you can see the several research institutes or hospitals may undertake some joint research challenge together to explore a new cancer drug. Or nowadays in the corona also, many countries are participating and contributing. Many physical organizations are contributing and they are building the virtual organization to find a appropriate vaccine or find a drug for this particular pandemic situation. So one of the typical example I am showing here, you can see here, I am showing you there are 3 physical organizations. So you can see there is a actual organization. This is the actual organization one. This is another actual organization. This is another actual organization. So there is 3 physical organizations. They are collaborating each other to create 2 virtual organizations. So you can see this border is called as your virtual organization. This part is your virtual organization, right? So you can see that it is divided. The resources of the 3 physical organization is taken, and in which we are creating 2 virtual organizations. One virtual organization, you can see this virtual organization is solving your drug development work, and this virtual organization is meant for your aircraft development, right? So multiple physical organizations can combine and make different virtual organizations so that a particular solutions, because these virtual organizations require more resources than the physical organization. That is the purpose why people are combining and creating virtual organizations to execute a particular grid project. So next we are going to discuss about the OGSA. OGSA is your Open Grid Service Architecture, the first architecture. So OGSA is a open source grid service and standard which is jointly developed by the academic people as well as your IT industry under the coordination of a working group that is called as GGF, that is called as a Global Grid Forum. So why OGSA is developed? We already discussed these things. Also, I am repeating here. OGSA is we want to provide a common framework so that any person want to build a grid platform, he can build by the following this particular framework, right? So that is the advantages you are going to get if you are using a particular common framework. You have a set of rules and guidelines by which you can build a particular grid platform. So OGSA was built on 2 basic terminology. One is your Globos toolkit, that is various versions of Globos toolkits are also available. We already discussed GT 4.0. So widely adopted as a grid technology solutions for scientific and technical computing, and also another type of software technology used in the OGSA framework, that is your web service, like web service 2.0. Why you are using? Because this is a popular standard-based framework for business and network applications. And OGSA also supports various things like creation, termination, management, invocation of the stateful tangent grid services via a standard interface and conventions. That's why OGSA is widely used in various grid formations or grid platforms. So OGSA framework specifies the physical environment, security, infrastructure profile, resource provisioning, virtual domain, execution environment for various grid services and API SS tools. So you can see these platforms is providing a set of guidelines or set of rules how the security of the infrastructure will be maintained, how to create the virtual domain, how the resources will be provisioned to the resources. Everything is mentioned in this framework. So if you compare OGSA with others, so OGSA is a service-oriented platform. So here you can say a service is nothing but an entity that provides some capability to its client by exchanging the message. And you are getting a greater flexibility by the help of this OGSA, which supports your service-oriented architecture. In OGSA also is centered on grid services, and these services demand a well-defined application interface. Everywhere, if a well-defined interface is there, then it is very easy to do the work. So these interfaces provide you the resource discovery. You can dynamically create the resources. You can maintain the lifetime. You can get the notification. You can manage the resources. This interface is going to provide such services so that whenever you require a particular service, you can use the services without having any problems. So here you can see the OGSA grid service interface developed by OGSA group. So here you are getting various support type like grid services. You can find a particular service data, and whenever the service is done, you can terminate the things, or you can destroy the grid services. From the grid services, you can get the notification, just like our PubSub model. You publish, publisher is publishing that thing, and subscriber is subscribing a particular publisher in order to get the notifications. Next is a notification sync, which is providing you various notification. Registry, which is providing to register for a particular service and unregister for a particular service. Similarly, factory to create the services, and map is to find by handle. We are going to discuss about this GSS and GSR in the upcoming slides. So this OGSA interface, if you see, there are two key properties of grid services. Okay, one is your transience, which says that you have to create and destroy anything dynamically, right? So this property says that how a service is created or how you can destroy a particular service, where stateful says that how you can distinguish one service from another service, so that one service should not collide with another service. So the main implication of these properties is how a service will be named or discovered or managed, right? That's why we are using these services. It has to distinguish the services and in order to create and destroy the services dynamically. So here we are using GSH, that is your grid service handle. So GSH is a globally unique name, and the name is constant, right? That distinguishes specific grid services instance from one another. Suppose one service, one grid service name is X, another service grid name is Y. So this name is known globally, so that X service should not be mapped with, should not be collide with Y service. However, whenever you go for GSR, that is your grid service reference. In grid service reference, for an instance can change over a lifetime of the service. So here you can see within a particular lifetime, you can change the name, right? The things can be changed with respect to a particular lifetime. For example, a particular thing is live for 24 hours, in between it can change various things. And in order to map this GSH, that is grid service handle, with GSR, OGSA employ a handle resolution mechanism, so that you can map the GSH with your GSR. So similarly, this mechanism is used for creating new services and specifying assertion regarding the lifetime of the services. Lifetime you need to specify, within the lifetime it can change the various services. So if you go for programmatically, OGSA defines a standard interface. The interface name is factor, to implement this reference, and any service that is created must address the former services as a reference to the later services, right? And in order to go for the factory interface is labeled as a create service operations, right? So let us see this particular figure in which you can see how the service is migrating from one place to another place. So here you can see there is a handle server is there, right, which is connected to your client, and you have GSR, that is your grid service reference. So what I want to migrate this service to another service instance at time t is equal to t. So here you can see the service migration is done from one service instance to another service instance, right? So the client that are connected to the GSR1, now it is not available. So we are going to exit from this link and you can connect to another GSR, right? So this is the service interface migration from one unit to another unit, and disconnection from the client from the GSR. That is your grid service reference. So this process is called as your migration. That is grid service migration, which is done by GSH. That is your service handle as well as your GSR. That is your service reference. Coming back to the OGS security model, OGS security model targets that how you can avoid the hackers, or how you can combat with the intrusion. Okay, how you can detect a particular intrusion through the intrusion detection system, or how you can implement the antivirus management to stop the virus so that unauthorized person cannot log in into this OGSA infrastructure, right? So how you can do this one? You can do this with a secure conversation. You can do by the help of single sign-on, okay, or you can do with the SS control, or you can do auditing and non-reputation. Suppose somebody is using the system, later point of time he should not deny that I have not used the system, right? So this is the various features provided by your OGSA security model. OGSA also uses our public key infrastructure. Okay, so at the public key infrastructure service level, OGSA demands secure security binding with the security protocol stack and bridging of the certification authority. So this certification authority is providing the security features by the help of public and private key. So by using these key, you can make a particular model more secure, right? You can also go for the trust model, right? You have to establish the trust among two different components. If it is trustworthy, then only the service can be provided. Otherwise, that user will be treated as not a genuine user. Okay, and SSL protocol or SSH is used to provide the secure logging into OGSA model. So if you want to see the various applications in the grid, the applications of the grid is divided into two parts. Either it is a computational intensive application or data intensive application. Computational intensive require more computational power. Data intensive require more storage. So what is our objective here? Our objective is to go for data intensive one. Data intensive one, if you go for applications, so you have to keep in your mind the storage, whatever you are using in the data intensive application, it should be low cost, and the data movement should be as faster as possible, right? So for this, there are some common methods are there for solving this data movement problem, because data movement takes more time. So in order to avoid that, we are using the data replication and unified namespace. Data replication means the same data is kept in multiple places so that data efficiency can be improved. And even if there is a failure of the particular system, the data is available in another system so that you can retrieve the data from that system, right? And but replication, the main part is where you are going to store it, or when you are going to take a backup, everything. For this, you require a particular efficient algorithm to do it. So the replication strategy can be your static or dynamically. You can do this one in a particular period of time, or you can do as long as a modification is done in a particular resource that will be replicated in other places. In that manner, you can say it is a statistic or a dynamic one. Coming to the grid SS model, you can see multiple participants may want to share the same data collections, right? Suppose you want to take the data same from a particular memory. You want to extract the data for a particular application. I want to also extract the data from the same application, same directory, right? So to retrieve any pieces of data, we need a grid with a unique global space namespace. If a same name is given, like many standard data sets are there in the Kaggle website, right? So if you want to download that data set, you will use that namespace. I will also use the same namespace in order to download that data set. So similarly, we require the unique file names so that one person's data should not collide with another person's data. And user who want to access this data have to be authenticated first, then only you can authorize to access the data. First thing is you have to authenticate so that any unauthorized user should not use your grid system, right? So there are 4 models I want to discuss here. So here you can see first model is your monadic model. In monadic model, you can see there is a central data repository. There is no backup. So any person require the data, they can refer to the central data repository, and this central data repository is going to provide you the service. But what happened? It is prone to your single point failure. If this is failed, the entire system is failed. Second model is your hierarchy model. In hierarchy model, what happened? You are going to a first level, second level, third level, fourth level hierarchy in order to maintain the thing, right? Third is your federation model. Just like your P2P model, here everyone is independent, right? So one can communicate with any other component, right? Like you can see here, a set of institutions are there. These set of institutions are coordinating with each other in order to provide, in order to collaborate each other in a federated manner. So you can say if you want to design a data grid with multiple sources of the data supplies, you can go for this federation model. This is just like our mesh topology, if you remember in the case of computer network, but the main thing is that so many connections are required. So this model is more costly. If you go for hybrid model, it is a combination of, you can say it is a combination of this hierarchy model as well as your this mesh model, that is the federation model. So you can see it is represented in the form of hierarchy, where the bottom level you have a set of institutes and which are collaborating each other, right? So these are the 4 models that are possible here. The last part is there is a difference between the parallel versus the stripped data transfer. If you go for parallel data transfer, like if you remember SISD, SIMD, MISD, MIMD, if you go for MIMD, multiple instructions and multiple data streams. So if you go for parallel data transfer, we are dealing with multiple data streams. So you can split the data and pass to different components, and these components can execute the work, right? So the work is divided into multiple segments of file, and they are executed simultaneously. But if you go for stripped data transfer, here the data object is partitioned into number of sections, and each section is placed in an individual side in the database, right? And this stripped data transfer can utilize the bandwidth. Whenever you go for a data intensive applications, you can go for stripped data transfer so that the bandwidth can be properly utilized, so that delay can be avoided of the multiple sites, and the speed up of the data transfer can be improved by the help of stripped data transfer in comparison to your parallel data transfer.